Good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So, the COMEX has lifted the margin requirements on silver, smacking down the price. This is not a surprise. This is the same thing that happened back with JP Morgan, with the crash JP Morgan buy silver campaign that took place 10 years ago, 11 years ago now, whatever it is. When the price starts becoming volatile, the COMEX will lift the margin requirements. And any time that you have seen like something that is, say, damaging to the banking system or damaging to the big players, the COMEX will raise the margin requirements on it. It's what happened to the Hunt brothers back in the early 80s. It's what happened back when, the crash JP Morgan campaign took place. And it happened again just recently with this whole, Reddit movement and people thinking that they're going to jump into the silver market and, crash all the banking systems and squeeze the short positions. I put out videos about it. I was very leery about this. I told people that I am not participating in any of this stuff. I'm just going to be a complete viewer on the whole thing. And other than, putting out the videos and talking a little bit about that, that's what I have done. I haven't made any purchases. I'm not attempting to. I'm not even, trying to sell, nothing like that stuff. I'm just an observer of it. And to see the article this morning about how the COMEX has lifted the margin requirements was not a surprise. So when the volatility begins to kick in, the COMEX will raise the margin requirements, pretty much shaking out all the weak hands. Now, if you're not quite familiar on how margin works when you're buying on margin, the easiest way to explain it is that you want to buy a lot, but you don't have the money, so you borrow, and you have to put up a little bit of collateral, which is cash. So you put up a little bit of money and able to buy a whole bunch. And now buying on margin is a really profitable way to go, but the problem is that if you want to carry that trade on, if you want to continue, like it ends, like it expires, okay? But if you don't want to get out of the trade, you want to continue on, you have to put up the money again. It's just like it expires, you sell and restart. And if you don't put up the money, then it's basically a sell. Well, when the margin requirement gets lifted, people who are anticipating paying a certain amount all of a sudden have to put up more of their own cash, and they don't want to because they're going to take a loss by doing that. That's the haircut, actually. It's kind of funny how when I hear people say about how an investor has to take a haircut, that's what they're talking about. Investors taking a haircut is when that margin requirement rises and that profit that they take in between shrinks, and it no longer becomes a reasonable or I guess it's just like, the risk that they're taking on for the reward diminishes, so it shakes out the weak hands. Only the stronger people will stay in that trade. And that's the whole point of raising the margin requirements, by lifting it up, saying, hey, you have to put up more cash in order to get into this trade. Then the volatility of this, rise and fall is supposed to dissipate. Well, what it does is it ends up smashing down the price a lot because a lot of people can't come up with that down payment, essentially, that margin requirement, in order to get into the trade, so they have to sell out. And that's what happened back in like the Hunt brothers. They were just like, they were going to corner the future. They were buying all of it. The Hunt brothers were going to buy all the contracts, all the silver, everything. And that's when they started lifting their margin requirements, and they're like, oh, well, we can't come up with that much money. And they're like, yeah, well, I guess you're going to have to sell. And that's exactly what they did. They had to sell. And boom, 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 down goes the price. Same thing with crash JP Morgan buy silver. And for the COMEX to do it right away, like with just this, to me, although $30 is really high, considering like history of silver, the price, $30 is just like incredibly cheap. I mean, it's really, really low. Really low. I don't even want to get into how low it is. Anyhow, it really surprises me that the COMEX was willing to jump in to raising the margin requirements so early. It's just like they just like immediately do not play this game. Like they're like saying, we are going to, smash down the silver prices immediately as soon as you try to make this volatility thing start taking off and everybody gets excited and start jumping into it. They're going to start smashing down with, the rising of margin requirements on the silver price, which is just basically just, makes it harder for the little guy to play the game, essentially, is what ends up happening there. So anyhow, I found those articles to be pretty interesting. One of the other things that I found was a downgrade of European miners. And I only read the article once, so I didn't quite get why. I don't know if it's because like just recently there's been like kind of a shift. The dollar is now strengthening against the euro, which may be putting that pressure on the European miners or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, but I found that to be interesting considering that everybody's talking about how we're going to have a booming commodities here. So for there to be a downgrade in those miners, and I'll leave links down in the description for all this stuff for you guys. For there to be a downgrade in those European miners, it just seems kind of peculiar to me, and so I almost wondering if it's just like, you know, something to do with that shift in like, you know, the euro versus the dollar strengthening, or the dollar strengthening towards the euro. Anyway, let's see, what else did I want to talk about here? I've done a few interviews lately, guys. This has been pretty interesting, and I'm going to leave links in the description for those as well. But yeah, it's been pretty interesting. I kind of ran this building material podcast circuit. It started with Zach, which I left a link, and I'll leave a link for that one too. But I left a link over on the community page. So if you just go over to my channel, check out the community page, it should be the very first one in the list there. I did an interview with this guy, Zach and Beth, and they were great. And they turned me on to Mark, who then turned me on to Tim. And I tell you, it's been great conversations with all these guys, and I cannot wait to continue on. I got a few more interviews I'm doing this week, and it's been pretty exciting. Like, I wanted to do more interviews for the channel, and I wanted to, like, you know, branch out there and try and find some interviews and like interview people, but they're like coming to me, so that's really cool. Either way, I mean, it's, you know, it's doing it. And then also I wanted to remind you guys to please check out the uneducatedeconomist.com website. I'm trying to get some traffic over there, trying to, you know, figure out what it is that people like about the channel, or about the website, what it is that we need to change about it. It is brand new to us, so we're still, like, you know, constantly tinkering with it, trying to figure out what it is that's working best for us, and what you guys want to see there. I put articles that I find interesting. Not all of them are like, you know, the hot topics, you know, that you're gonna find out there on a lot of other people's stuff, but it's things that I think are interesting, things that I think we should know about. So if you're looking for, like, you know, news articles to read and some of the stuff that I've been reading, you know, please go check out the uneducatedeconomist.com website, and you can find you know, a list of, it's just like, you know, an aggregate of different things as far as news articles, things that I've written too. And that's another thing I would really appreciate if you guys go and check out some of the writings. It'll be started with Uned Original, and then it'll be the writing that I've done. I'm trying to practice writing every single day, because I've been asked to write a book by probably 24 people or more in the last like 2 months, and it's just like, it's overwhelming me. And like, now I'm thinking, okay, I have to do this book, I have to like work on it. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to do, is to write more every day. And, you know, to be honest, once I get flowing, it really starts to pour out. But anyway, so I'm writing some shorter articles, and I would really appreciate if you guys go and check that out and just comment what you like, what you don't like about those articles, and, you know, help me kind of be inspired to write more, and I would really appreciate that. And I got to go to work. Uneducated Economist, you guys let me know.